Although I do really enjoy this movie, there are some criticisms. I do think this is one of those rare, decent werewolf movies, which is really hard to find because for some reason people can't make good werewolf movies besides American Werewolf in London. Howl was okay, but I rewatched it recently and I didn't like it as much as I liked it on my first time. But anyway, because I watched it a few days ago, because, I'm watching werewolf movies now. Last time I watched it was a few years ago. But the costumes in this movie, I don't know, I just don't really like them. They're not exactly bad, but I'm not a fan of it. Not a fan of it. The werewolf transformation was really good, though. I did think it was weird that he got a bunch of werewolves to, help him. Because he realized that the old man was on to him and realized that he was a werewolf, so he went around the town biting his neighbors while he was in human form. Don't really explain how that works. It's very weird. But yeah, so the blind man, the main character of the movie, has to fight a bunch of these werewolves. And survives. I killed them all. He does die from his injuries, but he survives to kill like a bunch of them. I thought there was only 3, but there was at least 6 that he ended up fighting. And he showed no mercy. The last one, though, he gets bitten from, so I thought he was gonna live on to be a werewolf, but no, he dies from his injuries. It made me mad, though, because he had a gun in his jacket and he didn't reach for it. He just swung his shovel around a few times to keep it away. Shovel broke, stabbed it in his eyes, then he got the gun and shot it. Should have used the gun in the first place. The shovel should have been a backup option. But it is a really interesting aspect to have a blind man have to deal with something as severe as werewolves. Though it does lead to the fact that the werewolves don't really act that much like werewolves. They fight like humans. They aren't very violent. Because, that's like a big thing of werewolves is they tear people to shreds. So, there's only a few deaths because they try and make it a little bit more realistic. Because full moons don't happen every day. So they try and say that there's like a full moon once a month. So there's only like a few deaths in the beginning. Which is the old man's dog, which is the whole reason he wants to kill these werewolves. And, this old lady he talked to in one scene, and then some random dude that they mentioned later in the movie that was like a few miles away or something. I guess it was a hint at that there was more than one werewolf. Since obviously a werewolf couldn't be in 2 places at once, so there was at least 2 werewolves. But then there's way more later. The R slur is used in this movie. I didn't like that. Makes the old man a little bit less likable. He never was a good character. They clearly admit that later in the movie about how he's not a good husband and stuff like that. But yeah, he uses the R slur in a scene because he gets offended that people talk about how he's blind. He had every right to be offended, but he goes, well, I'm not a... and then drops the R slur. Must have mistaken me for one of those R slurs, is what he says. So, did not like that. But it didn't make me completely dislike his character. It was bad, and I didn't exactly like that scene, but you know you're not exactly supposed to like this guy. But it is a really good werewolf movie. Some of it is pretty tense. I do like how before the neighbor lady dies, Dolores, that they hint the werewolf is gonna get her. Because you know in like most movies they make it big and obvious, like a shadowy figure is standing outside and they have zoom ins and all this cliche shit to show you that, yeah, this person's about to die. But in this one, they have the werewolf walk by the window, and then he walks by the other window. And then he gets inside. Her death is mostly off screen, but we do see the aftermath, and it's pretty brutal. So to see what happened to her, and then this blind man just get a bite on the shoulder and miss a toe. He's missing a toe, but that's from his own fault. Because, you know, he's blind. He's trying to shoot the werewolf, but werewolf, like, smacks him, so when he shoots the gun, he accidentally shoots his own toe. So it makes it, even though, yes, he's a veteran, he fought in wars, these are werewolves. It makes it, you know, very unbelievable that he could kill all these things. Sure, he dies, but he kills all of them. Makes it very unbelievable. The movie ends with his son going to his funeral with his dad's rifle, aiming it at a full moon, and shooting. Overall, it was a decent movie. I just didn't like the use of the R slur. And like I already stated, the werewolf costumes, not a huge fan of. This scene was really good, though. I do wish that there were more scenes of the werewolves scaring people, hunting people down, but there's only one, and that's Dolores. The only other one is off screen and mentioned halfway through the movie. Unless you count the scene where his dog dies, but that's like the whole motivation for the movie. So it's more of a plot device. He does survive the attack just for the werewolf to randomly leave, which I also thought was pretty weird. But overall, I guess it was a pretty decent movie, and I probably would rewatch it, because it's a pretty good werewolf movie.